If you're growing old of your partner and it's starting to feel like you're roommates at best and you're too afraid to speak up on how you're really feeling, then stick around. In this video, I'm going to be sharing the 5 signs and areas that you can be looking at to determine if your relationship is in a gray area or if it's something else. Hi, if we haven't met yet, my name is Kari, and on this channel, I help high performers go from being stuck in a mundane gray area life, move into their dream life. So let's talk about relationships. They can be really, really tricky and very hard to navigate, especially if there's a lot of baggage from our past that we're bringing into that relationship. And if you haven't healed things from the past, it can be a collision course. So let's look at the areas that you can start to ask yourself and determine whether or not you want to stay with this person, or maybe there's another option for you. Before we begin, let me go ahead and let you know now that I'm a big fan of marriages, especially long-term marriages. I'm not one to say, hey, just give up on everything and throw in the towel. A lot of times there's some miscommunication going on, there's expectations that aren't being met, and a lot of times there's some insecurity and distrust in the relationship that hasn't yet been dealt with. My hope for you in this video is to provide you with some real life questions that you can be looking at and a roadmap to get you there. Number 1, evaluate how you really feel about your partner. Are you still attracted to them? This is a big one for a lot of couples. You know, when you first get together, there is this natural attraction. That's obviously what brought the two of you together. But as years go by, sometimes that starts to go like this. Maybe it's weight gain, maybe it's a couple gray hairs, maybe it's the way that they're performing at work, or you're disappointed in them. But I want to turn this around. I want you to think about you, for example. Are you happy with how you look? Are you happy with your performance? Are you feeling insecure? A lot of times when we look at our partner and we're seeing things in them, we can sometimes see it in ourselves, but we don't always want to admit that. You also want to get really honest with, are you being honest? Are you being honest with your partner that you're really staying after work late to work on something? Or are you going someplace? Are you texting anyone or hiding things, your activities, or again, messages or emails that you wouldn't want your partner to know? This is a telltale sign that something's going on. No judgment here, just something for you to be really honest about. Number 2, are you really unhappy in the relationship, or is it the expectations that you have for the partner that aren't being met? Wow, this is a big one. A lot of times we have these expectations that we place on our partner that they're not able to reciprocate back because they don't know how you feel. They're not in your head. They can't know what you're thinking. And a lot of times when we're not able to speak up and say what we need, and those expectations are not being met, this is another way to cause friction in the relationship. Let me give you an example. Two examples actually, they're pretty far apart from each other. One is house chores, for example. Let's say that you expect your partner to always take out the garbage. You're not going to take out the garbage. You expect them to take out the garbage. But maybe that day they're running late for work and they weren't able to take the garbage out, and now you're upset with them because that's their job. Well, this is an expectation that you're placing on your partner, knowing that they're human. They're going to make mistakes from time to time. And if they're not following through with something that you expect them to, this is going to cause you to be upset with them. Let's talk about something a little bit more deeper and more serious. Let's talk about being intimate with each other. Maybe your expectations are that they should be doing things and providing services for you when you want it, but they're unable to do that or unwilling to do that. Well, you might take this as a rejection. But is it really a rejection, or is it their insecurity on how they're feeling? A lot of times our expectations from our significant other is because there's something else that's going on that's much deeper for them inside, deeply rooted. And until they're able to come to terms with whatever those limiting beliefs are for them, they're not going to feel comfortable being in a romantic intimate relationship if they're feeling less than. And this goes the same for you. Perhaps you're feeling less than, and this is why you don't want to feel like you want to be intimate anymore. This is one example of being in the gray area. So if they're falling short with the expectations that you have for your partner and for yourself, this is something to be aware of. Is it really that you're unhappy, or is it expectations? Number 3, mirroring. I'm talking about co-enabling here. How many times have you done something that you are feeding off of your partner? You tend to feed each other. Co-enabling is that. It's this, I'm going to give you some, you're going to get some, and you go back and forth, even if this is detrimental to yourselves and as a couple. I'm going to give you an example. I had a client that I worked with over a year ago that the moment he left work, he started drinking just so he could put up with his wife when he got home. Those are his words. The moment he walked in the door, she had already been drinking all day because she was going to have to put up with him. And so instead of them looking at the real cause, the real root cause of this relationship, they both were using a substance, in this case alcohol, to deal with one another. And because he was doing it, she was doing it. And because she was doing it, he was doing it. And it was a way for them to justify without them having to look at themselves in the mirror. Well, if you're doing it, I'm going to do it. This is one example of co-enabling each other's and your behavior. Another example of this is when you're starting to feed off of each other's negativity. Let's say you're already heightened because you had a bad day at work and you come home and you walk in the door, you've been working hard and you have a stay-at-home spouse or a stay-at-home partner, and your expectations are you walk in the door, you have food on the table, and the house is tidy and the kids are all in their place. Instead, you walk into, the kids are screaming, they're not doing their homework, your wife is grumpy or your partner's grumpy because they had a tough day themselves, and yet your expectations are they need to be waiting on you hand and foot. So you walk in the door, you start arguing with them, they start arguing back, and then before you know it, you have this big blowout, you're both fighting and screaming at each other, and then you continue with drinking to cover up how you're really feeling. This co-enabling is a #1 area that couples end up splitting because they're not able to actually see what's really happening in the moment. The big takeaway here is to assess your own behavior and how you're showing up in the relationship before you start judging or looking at your partner's behavior. I want to share with you my own story in my relationship with my husband, Rob. We've been married at the time of this recording almost 33 years. Just 3 years ago, on our 30th wedding anniversary year, I told Rob that I was no longer happy in the marriage. I wasn't attracted to him anymore. I didn't like how we weren't engaging in conversation. My expectations of him were not being met. His expectations of me were not being met. We weren't acting like real partners. We weren't able to have the conversations that were moving us forward. It was more or less just existing together in the house. And because we're married so long at this point, I mean, who wants to break that up, right? I'm thinking about the money that it's going to cost and where am I going to live, and do I really want to start over, and do I really want to go through a divorce? Well, the answer was no. I told Rob how I was feeling and he was devastated. There was lots of tears, lots of arguing, lots of yelling, and over a period of several months, we worked really hard at this relationship. We had candid conversations. I told him how I was feeling. I told him that I wanted us to feel like strong together as a couple, that I wanted to be attracted to him again, that I wanted him to be attracted to me, that I wanted us to feel like we're on fire for life together, that I didn't want to throw away this long-term marriage. We worked so hard to have what we have. Starting all over definitely isn't something that I was interested in doing. As a matter of fact, it scared me. But working on the relationship also really scared me. We were at a crossroads and we had to make a decision. So we buckled in, we did the hard work, we worked through it, and we did that with a lot of modalities and a lot of talking and a lot of honesty. And because of that experience is one reason why I love coaching my clients on their relationship with their significant other. It is one reason why I've expanded my coaching practice to include this big gray area of relationships. Number 5, talk to somebody that's impartial to your relationship with your partner. Now, this can't be a friend because, of course, they're too close. I'm talking about a coach or a counselor, a therapist, or a pastor, somebody that's not in your day-to-day relationship that can be impartial to what is really going on. Having another set of eyes and another perspective will really help you gain awareness on whether or not the relationship is in the gray area or it's beyond repair. A big part of this is for you to pour into yourself, for you to put yourself first. And this requires you to dive a little bit deeper into the self-development work that you need to do for you to feel more confident, for you to be able to speak up and have these tough conversations. Out of all of them, this is the hardest because when you start to feel really good about yourself, your partner can actually get resentful because you're moving up levels and they're staying down here. And quite frankly, that is what was happening in my marriage. When I just shared with you my own story from just 3 years ago, is that I was starting to rise in the levels of where I felt I was in my self-development journey, and I felt like Rob was staying down here. And it wasn't that I felt better than him, it was just that I was feeling more confident about myself and I wanted him to rise with me. And when he wasn't, this is where the disconnect started to happen. So I tell you this and share this with you because when you start to pour into yourself and you feel really good about you and where you're going, your partner can pull back and get a little resentful. It is something for you to be aware of. It's not a reason for you not to do it, but I do want you to know that this could happen. You have choices, and it starts and ends with you. Yes, you are just one of two in this partnership, but it has to start with you. You're here watching this video, you obviously want to make a change, and you don't want to be feeling like you're stuck in a relationship that you're not wanting to be in anymore, but maybe you're not quite ready to throw it away just yet. Don't be afraid to use your voice and speak up if you're not happy. It's what I did just a couple years ago, and look where we are today. For inspiration, I want to invite you to check out this video above of when Rob and I came out and told everybody about our relationship. I'll also link it in the description box below. If you found this video to be helpful and inspiring, please consider subscribing to the channel, hit the notification bell, and drop a comment below and tell me where you're struggling the most in your relationship. I drop a new video every week on Wednesdays, and I can't wait to see you again. Thanks for watching.